now I'm getting too old to do all that, but I enjoyed it while I could. And that's like finding about Uncle Joe's cows out there.
Yeah,
Big
that's
cows.
That's interesting, there was a dairy out there.
Yeah, big dairy.
Yeah, back in the 30s, along in there.
I thought that was over by that Bishop's Dairy, over where the graveyard is, where the infants are.
No,
there?
it was
One dairy, that was Watson, Avalon Watson and Bud, Mr. Watson.
Yeah, he was the one that had the dairy.
Had the dairy out there, and I think,
No, it was
exactly
further
where it was located, I don't know, but.
It was further beyond the cemetery, yeah.
So now the cattle started somewhere around about where the cemetery starts there, because up on that hill, of course there's houses there now, there was a big vat up in there. And when I first found it, it had about several inches of sand. But I was sure that over the years that it got filled with sand, and no, they couldn't find it in. They don't even know about it, but there is a vat up on that hill where they put them cows through. And also there's one out back this side of where the museum is, out on that subdivision out there. There's two of the vats that they would put the cows in every so often. Of course, then that Joe just sold all his cows to that they had, and they moved the cows out to his place.
That was in the 1930s. He sold all of his cows to my Uncle Ed Dorset out at Sumner, and he established a dairy out there that supplied Cedar Key with milk for many years. When I was a kid,
I have since I got big enough to run. I don't know whether you remember him or not, but Charles Cavass, me and him was buddy, and we would travel all out in them woods, and we get there to, of course, Jim Green is that island out there, which the road would go down to the water to stop. Now, it wasn't no boats or anything, it was road. So I don't know, we think the mill was supposed to back up and had part of that where they drug those logs up. Now, that's just thinking. We went over to Jim Green to get Jim Green, we had to jump in the water and swim over there, and then when you get back, swim back. Because when we get home, your clothes will be dry anyhow. You're going to make sure they are, because you can't go swimming till May the 1st. If they throw you overboard, then you would swim. And now Mama didn't get on to us about somebody throwing us overboard.
And you weren't supposed to go in swimming until at least an hour or hour and a half after you ate.
Now we was never allowed, and we didn't even try it. Once we ate, that was it until an hour later, and then you could get.
Then you could go swimming.
Yeah. Matter of fact, if you get thrown overboard, good, you can swim. But we believed in, not only did we travel in that section, we go out and you get the road, the old road that they used to come in years and years ago. Now the road is gone, was gone, but it was, the imprint was there. You could follow it for miles and go, and you find old bottles inside the ditch there where you could pick them up. Of course, we busted them, we did save them, but we done that till we got had to go to the service. But now, in reading about Mr. Lane, he did a good story on the boats, the ships that he would come here. He was a traveling salesman, and he'd come down the river on one of the boats and here at Cedar Keys, and then talked all the stories. But he said it was nothing unusual to see 40 or 50 ships sitting out there waiting to be loaded up to be sent all over the world. And I tell you, that must have been something back in them days. So you look at your 84 map, and there was a lot of businesses on there. But now, when you get the map out, I don't know what's the name of this here map company that is buying the map that shows, anyhow, if you get it out looking, you'll find buildings after buildings along here, I mean big buildings, but they're empty. they're not, people not in it. And, from 1890 right on through to 1910 or 1906, I got several of them anyhow. They showed so many of them buildings, they're empty. They're not, and we've always heard how many people were in Cedar Keys. But when you look at those maps and you study them for a while, it makes you wonder just how many people really lived in Cedar Keys. Now, I do know that during certain seasons, we have a lot of people here. Now, the winter time, we have the Yankees come in. And I mean, we have them here. The whole place down there be jammed up. And most of them were really nice people. But there were some wasn't. But anyhow, but they make fun of us because we all went barefooted. I mean, we didn't wear shoes. We stayed in that water anyhow. And, I mean, even, of course, we only have block off in water. And I guarantee you, we'd be down there in that water somewhere or another. Of course, we'd be swimming. Now, that means if you went home, you got trouble. Because unless when somebody towed you. But it was just, just idea of living here, you can't understand it unless you did live here. But it was enjoyable. The people was good to you. If you went to their house and it was time to eat, you sat at their table. You didn't leave. You sat at their table. And if you done something wrong,
anybody could tell you.
You got pulled up. And Mama could tell every time somebody tear you up, because when she got home, you did it again. But it's like I tell these people when I'm down here on Wednesday about walking the railroad. There lays that steel laying out there and it's flat on top. And you walking along that big dock. There ain't nowhere in the world they're going to stop you from walking over on top of that steel. Now you know you're going to get tore up when you get home, because Daddy tells you. But you're going to get on that steel and more, and it's dangerous. It's real dangerous because nothing but oyster shells underneath you, broken glass and stuff. But you're going to get that railroad, and you know what's going to happen. Well, that's the same way about swimming. If you've got somebody down there that can throw you overboard, then you won't lie. But if you jump in swimming, Mama finds out about it somehow, but I guess she'd tell lies, but she was good at that.
A couple of things that we did when I was a kid that never heard of anything like this going on in recent years, but we used to play rubber guns and cut rubbers out of inner tubes and made a wooden handle, made a wooden gun and had notches in it, and you'd pull the rubber back and hook it onto a notch and fight and have fights with them. If you got hit, you were dead. The other thing was the fiber factory had a lot of waste fiber produced from the hackling of the fiber, getting the good fiber out of the tree. There was a lot of waste, and they spread it out around the factory on the property out adjacent to the factory. And we had kids, a group of us would come down and play football, tackle football on the fiber pile. And actually it was all flat, and just the fiber was just spread out all over a big area, big enough to have a football field. And maybe it wasn't a regulation size field, but anyway, and it was so much fun because you could, when you fell, you didn't get hurt because the fiber was spongy, and it was hard to run on, and you had to run sort of with your legs to keep, because your feet would go down in it. But that was another thing that we did as kids. I remember my brother did more of that than I did. I was 5 years younger than he was, and I was sort of in the way of the bigger boys, you know. But anyway, Waylon Wadley and T.G. Henley and Meredith Baylor and several other boys that were my brother's age would all come down there after school and play football on the fiber pile. But, we sort of gotten away from the,
No, it's interesting.
from the, lumber industry, but,
I heard already, saw it.
I guess it's about time for us to wind it up, so we have a board meeting, at 5:00. Any more questions?
We had those rubber guns down now where the motel is, only with bushes, and we'd be back into hiding in bushes. Somebody be set up there, shot you with one of them things, and I can tell you right now,
Oh, it hurt.
it brings blister. And then where they got a great big condos up there on the hill, that was all weeded up. That's where we used to play a lot for cowboys and Indians, and then they had there was trees, and Mr. Charlie Roger, they lived close in one of the other houses back then. And we could take that tree and grab a hold of that vine, and we could swing out and get over on the highway. They couldn't shoot that way because then the stuff would go in his yard. But I want to tell you, that brought a blister if they were close to you. They had the rifles. Now the rifles, the one that hurt, the pistol didn't hurt too bad. But they had them long rifles, and that pulled that thing is pulled way back there. And when they flick it, I'm gonna tell you, that thing felt like a bullet coming into your rear end there. So,
Wonderful memories of childhood.
Glenn, was there anything that you wanted to?
Yeah, I want.
Yankee says, let's go.
First, I want to thank all docents. You are so wonderful. You work so hard, and thank you, everybody. If somebody doesn't have docent book, everybody has it. If somebody does not have, it will be extra here. You can take it. And also, if anybody needs a name badge, let me know. I will make it for you because probably somebody doesn't have. If you can write me a note.
you're supposed to have a name tag?
Yes. Okay, I'll give it to you.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
But you had it, it's here, but I'll give it to someone in this search. And if you learn this book by heart, but I know some docents know just, and you don't really need to know anymore. Okay, you can answer any question. Okay, and everybody knows how to use credit card reader. Everybody knows that we have $50 now, right, in the register, in cash box, and.
Is that every day or just weekends?
No, it's every day.
Every day?
Every day, yeah. You come, I usually every morning I check, and the docent, before you leave, you put your initials there, and just like this $50, and I usually check, and if it needs some more dollars, I go to bank and change it. So, and if you have any questions, you write me a note here, or everybody knows that email address, I always correspond with you, just ask me, call me, whatever. And maybe you have some questions or suggestions how